They was hating on the kid, that's fine. I'ma make a movie out these niggas one time. Don't you worry about the time it took. Just know that the bullets in the magazine enough to paint a comic book. Niggas all kinda shook. Round here, niggas bear enough arms and get compared to an octopus. Check out the pages in my comic book. Cannons get hand drawn. Ain't nothing sketchy when you plot a jokes. A burning flame in this comic book. Everything could change. I turn the page in this comic. Hey yo, my city riding. In a day of flower blossom when the sun fade. Every night it turn to Gotham, Batman and Robin. Not the heroes, but it happens when the op gets spotted. They whoop your ass and pat your pockets. Marvelous, everything real. Bitch, I never lied. Magneto lifting my arms to let the metal fly. All black Nina, call it black woman storm. But it rain on you niggas, don't get caught up in the storm. Don't you worry about the time it took. Just know that the bullets in the magazine enough to paint a comic book. Niggas all kinda shook. Round here, niggas bear enough arms and get compared to an octopus. Check out the pages in my comic book. Cannons get hand drawn. Ain't nothing sketchy when you plot a jokes. A burning flame in this comic book. Everything that changed, I turn the page in this comic book. I'm not Peter Parker, so why do niggas think I hang with them? When every time they around, my spidey sense tingling. Bodies on nice, for trying to be dead cool. Bodies in the water, that's how you make a dead pool. I bring carnage to these niggas, be an idiot. Dressed in all black, kinda looking like the symbiote. No matter if these niggas hating on me, I will never be a character erased from the story. Don't you worry about the time it took. Just know that the bullets in the magazine enough to paint a comic book. Niggas all kinda shook. Round here, niggas bear enough arms and get compared to an octopus. Check out the pages in my comic book. Cannons get hand drawn. Ain't nothing sketchy when you plot a
under
joke.
Section
A burning flame in this
107
comic book.
of the
Everything
Copyright
changed.
Act
I
of
turned the page in this comic
1976.
book.
Allowances made for fair use for purpose such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips and the balance of the favor of fair use. Welcome to Blended Healing. Breaking news. Breaking news. We're going to be talking about blocks, farmers, and the Supreme Court. And if we have enough time, I'll throw in something a little extra. So, breaking news. Comments are welcome. Please keep them cute. FAFO. Okay? All right. So, from the Associated Press, the third judge blocks Trump's order ending birthright citizenship for kids of people in the United States illegally. The story is by LINDSAY Whitehurst and Kathy McCormack. In Concord, New Hampshire, a third federal judge on Monday blocked President Donald Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship for the children of people who are in the U.S. illegally. The ruling from the United States District Judge Joseph LaPlante in New Hampshire comes after two similar rulings by judges in Seattle and Maryland last week. LaPlante, who was nominated by President George W. Bush, said he wasn't persuaded by the Trump administration's defense of the executive order. He said he would issue a longer preliminary injunction later, explaining his reasoning. A lawsuit filed by the American Civil Liberties Union contends that Trump's order violates the Constitution and attempts to upend one of the most fundamental American constitutional values. It was brought on the behalf of the immigrant rights groups with members who are pregnant and whose children could be affected by the order. For people out there feeling scared or confused right now, I would just say that this is a right that's enshrined in the Constitution itself, as well as in the federal statute. The ACLU Immigrant Rights Project Deputy Director Cody Wolfies argued. And we and our partners will keep fighting until this executive order is ended once and for all. Lawyers representing the Trump administration declined to comment on Monday, but Trump's Republican administration asserts that children of non-citizens are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and therefore are not entitled to citizenship. The administration is appealing the Seattle-based judge's block on Trump's executive order. At least 9 lawsuits have been filed to challenge the birthright citizenship order. In the case filed by 4 states in Seattle last week, the Trump administration was attempting to ignore the Constitution. The rule of law is, according to him, something to navigate around or something to be ignored, whether that be for political or personal gain. Who was appointed by the Kohinoor, who was appointed by Republican President Ronald Reagan. In this case, in the courtroom under my watch, the rule of law is a bright beacon, which I intend to follow. A federal judge in Maryland also blocked Trump's order in another case brought by immigrants' rights groups and pregnant women, those whose soon-to-be-born children could be affected. The Trump administration has not yet filed an appeal to the preliminary injunction issued by a U.S. district judge who was appointed by Democratic President Joe Biden. A federal judge in Boston also heard arguments last week in a suit filed by a group of 18 states. A U.S. district judge who was appointed by President Barack Obama did not immediately rule. The judge in New Hampshire praised both sides for the way they made their cases. He states, "I am not persuaded by the defendant's arguments on this motion. I have to say, I'm not offended by them either. As a lawyer or a jurist, I think the rule of law is best served, best maintained, and preserved when excellent practitioners present their arguments to the court with all the experience, expertise, and knowledge they can muster." At the heart of the lawsuits in these 3 cases is the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, ratified in 1868 after the Civil War and the Dred Scott Supreme Court decision, which held that Scott, an enslaved man, wasn't a citizen despite having lived in a state where slavery was outlawed. In 1898, in a case known as the United States versus Wong Kim Ark, the U.S. Supreme Court found only children who did not automatically receive U.S. citizenship upon being born on the United States soil were children of diplomats who have allegiance to another government. Enemies present in the United States during hostile occupation those born on foreign ships, and those born to members of sovereign Native American tribes. The United States is among 30 countries where birthright citizenship, the principle of jus soli, or right of the soil, is applied. Most are in the Americas. Canada and Mexico are among them. This was reported, Whitehurst reported from Washington, Associated Press, writers Michael Casey in Boston and Michael Catalini in Trenton, New Jersey contributed to this story. Our next story and breaking news. Child, this is about farmers are on the hook. They on the hook for millions after Trump freezes the USDA funds. Woo! Story by Daniel Wu, Gaya Gupta, Anumita Kaur from the Washington Post. Farmers report missing millions of dollars of funding they were promised by the United States Department of Agriculture, despite promises from the Trump administration that a federal funding freeze would not apply to projects directly benefiting individuals. On his first day in office, Donald Trump ordered the USDA, to freeze funds for several programs designated by Joe Biden, signature, Clean Energy and Healthcare Law, the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act. The freeze paused some funding for the department's Environmental Quality Incentive Program, which helps farmers address natural resource concerns, and the Rural Energy for America program, which provides financial assistance for farmers to improve their infrastructure. Farmers who sign contracts with the USDA under those programs paid up front to build fencing, plant new crops, and install renewable energy systems with guarantees that the federal government would issue grants and loan guarantees to cover at least part of those costs. Now, with the money frozen, they on the hook. An individual who runs a Maryland flower farm said she signed a contract for the USDA to cover half of a 72,900 solar panel installation in late January. She said she was told her reimbursement payment was rejected because of Trump's executive order. She states, she states that she really doesn't know what she's going to do. It feels like I can't even really think about it. The USDA has also halted funding for other programs, including scientific research grants in agriculture and producing climate-smart crops, according to a letter sent to the agency Thursday from House Democrats on the Agriculture and Appropriations Committee. Pulling the rug out from these recipients runs counter to the mission of the USDA and will quickly and significantly cripple economic development in rural America, the letter states. The White House repeatedly said the freeze of agricultural funding and other federal financial assistance would not affect benefits that go directly to individuals, such as farmers. The administration rescinded the pause after a federal judge temporarily halted its implementation. But over the weekend, farmers reported that their funding remained frozen. Another blow to farmers who are also facing threats of tariffs and freezes to foreign aid spending that involve food purchase from American producers. In a statement, a USDA spokesperson said that the Trump administration rightfully has asked for a comprehensive review of all contracts, work, and personnel across all federal agencies. Anything that violates the president's executive orders will be subject for review, the statement says. The Department of Agriculture will be happy to provide a response to interested parties once the new head is confirmed as the Secretary of Agriculture and has an opportunity to analyze these reviews. The White House did not respond to a request for comment. This disruption of funds appropriated through the Inflation Reduction Act take aims at one of Biden's flagship legislative accomplishments. Most of that funding was doled out in the last month of his presidency, according to the Washington Post analysis. But grants worth $32 billion authorized under the act remain vulnerable to being frozen. The USDA made $3.1 billion from the Inflation Reduction Act available in the 2024 fiscal year for climate smart agricultural activities, according to the department, including grants and loans for initiatives such as environmental quality incentives program and the Rural Energy for America program. On Wednesday, the National Farmers Union president testified before the Senate Agricultural Committee that the Trump administration's sweeping decisions on federal funding were creating concern for farmers across the country. No one knows what funding will be available or if key programs will have the staff needed to operate, he states. Freezing spending and making sweeping decisions without congressional oversight just adds more uncertainty to an already tough farm economy. A cattle farmer in eastern Missouri said he signed a $240,000 contract in December under the Environmental Quality Incentives Program to share cost on investments for his farm. With the funding, Holden erected new fencing and installed a well. He had planned to further improvements to his farm's water system and spent $80,000 on materials and labor contracts that he expected would be partly paid back by the government. This month, a USDA representative told him the funding was paused because of Trump's executive order. I asked her, is there any word on when they're going to be unfrozen? He said. Is it going to be frozen indefinitely? She did not have any answers for me. The department suggested that Holden's only recourse was to contact his congressional representatives. With the money promised in his contract on hold, Holden said he is in a bind. Upfront payments for the construction and materials he arranged are due soon, on top of his regular operating expenses. The terms of his contract also stipulate that he must pay back the money he has already received from the department, plus interest, if he does not complete all the development outlined in the contract within 5 years. If the freeze continues, he said he will have to take out additional loans or sell his farm equipment and cattle. If I sell them out to make this payment, I'm hurting myself years down the line. I'm robbing myself of the future. Another flower farmer in Maryland received a grant from the Rural Energy of America program last year. The initiative provides loan financing and grant funding to agricultural producers and rural farm businesses to make energy efficiency improvements. The grant was slated for solar panel installation on her farm. An improvement, she said, would save her farm $5,000 a year and be better for the environment. Now, with the contract suspended, she doesn't know what to do. We don't have a whole lot of capital to hire a lawyer, she said. The funding freeze have also paused large projects across the states. The Iowa Soybean Association stated that the USDA payments have been suspended for a 5-year Midwest Climate Smart commodity grant that the organization secured in 2022. The $95 million deal supports more than 1,000 farms in 12 Midwestern states and encourages conservation practices in producing corn, soybeans, wheat, and sugar beets. Hundreds of participating farmers are owed $11 million after investing in new farming practices and crops because of the program. The farmer states that she's at a loss for what to do next, with the government's promised payment of $36,000 on hold. She is already paying back a loan she took out to launch her farm. Taking out another one would be unimaginable. It scares me for the future of farming. Not just that funding won't be available for new farmers that need it, but that farmers won't trust the government going forward. And that's the end of that breaking news. The next breaking news we have is the Supreme Court child. Breaking news. The Supreme Court that Trump helped shape could have the last word on his aggressive executive orders. In the Washington, this story is by Mark Sherman from the Associated Press. Donald Trump will need the Supreme Court with 3 justices he appointed to enable the most aggressive of the many actions he has taken in just the first few weeks of his second White House term. But even as a conservative majority with a robust view of the presidential power might balk at some of what the president wants to do. The court gave Trump major victories last year that helped clear away potential obstacles to his reelection, postponing his criminal trial in Washington, D.C., and then affording immunity from prosecution for official actions. But his first term was marked by significant defeats as well as some wins at the court. It will be extraordinary test for the Roberts Court whether it's willing to stand up for the constitutional principles it has long embraced. Some of the things that we have seen are so blatantly unconstitutional that I am confident the court will stand up. Other things that aligned with the accumulation of the power of the presidency make me very nervous, stated Michael Walden, NYU's Brennan Center. There's no shortage of issues that could find a path to the nation's highest court. Lower courts already have paused orders on birthright citizenship, a freeze on government grants and loans, and a buyout order for federal workers. Other lawsuits have been filed over restrictions on transgender people, limits on asylum seekers, and efforts to shutter USAID. Elon Musk and his team's access to sensitive data and the firing of officials at independent federal agencies. Trump met with mixed success at the court in his first term. By a 5-4 vote, the justices upheld his ban on travel to the United States from several mostly Muslim countries, but only after courts had blocked the first two versions of it. The same 5 conservative justices backed Trump's firing of the head of the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau and cleared a way for the administration to tap billions of dollars in Pentagon funds to build sections of a border wall with Mexico, while a lawsuit over the money continued. At the same time, Chief Justice John Roberts joined with the court's then 4-justice liberal bloc to prevent Trump from ending the DACA program for immigrants who were brought here as children. The same 5-justice majority also stopped the administration from including a question about citizenship on the 2020 census. Roberts also bluntly rebuked Trump for denouncing a judge who rejected his migrant asylum policy as an Obama judge. One big difference from the first Trump presidency is that there are just 3 liberal judges. After Ruth Bader Ginsburg died in September of 2020, allowed Trump to appoint a 3rd justice, Amy Coney Barrett. In the final months of his term, she joined earlier Trump appointees Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh. Birthright citizenship could offer a critical early test. The issue that might be first in line is the ending of that birthright citizenship for children of parents who are in the United States illegally. The administration already has indicated it will appeal a judge ruling that has so far blocked it. Depending on how quickly the Federal Appeals Court in San Francisco acts, an emergency appeal to the Supreme Court could arrive within weeks if Trump's Justice Department wants to press courts to allow the order to take effect while the legal fight continues. While there is some support in legal circles for what Trump is trying to do, the more broadly held view among both liberal and conservative scholars is that this is a fight the president won't win. I am exceedingly skeptical about there being any votes for the birthright citizenship executive order as written. Will Trump's order to freeze federal spending stand? The Trump's now paused effort to federal freezing to shut down U.S. aid also might meet resistance, even in front of the conservative court, though more modest reductions could fare better. What about the history of that travel ban, when the court eventually upheld it after it was revised twice? The president's power to fire is on a firmer ground. Trump, in his firing of National Labor Relations Board members and Equal Employment Opportunity Commission members, all Democrats, already have sued, arguing the federal law protects them from being arbitrarily dismissed. But even their lawyers acknowledge in their filing that the lawsuit can tee up Supreme Court challenge to a 90-year-old president that Roberts and the other conservatives have already narrowed. Roberts left the executive standing but diminished, even as the Justice Clarence Thomas and Gorsuch wrote that they would have gone ahead and overruled it. And that is the breaking news. So that's it and that all. That's the breaking news. So we could be talking about things coming up like the anti-crime plan, just let all allies off the hook, or the mega droughts that have grown in size and scope, or Trump pushes rule of law to the brink of collapse. I hope that I was able to bring you some information that you may not know about. So be well, stay safe, and I shall see you all very, very soon.
Who they think they better than? Ain't no comparison to the so-called black or African American. You can drop the African, keep the American. When we say Aborigine and make their world in, I'm going in the same dirt my ancestors buried in. I come from a god and a goddess, so what that make me? Not even Basquiat can trace me. Not even Van Gogh can paint me. The MC in me is the God of C equals the God in me. I'm focused in, let my mind be free. You too blind to see. The Jews I give is real, it's been real. These ain't shots, they missiles. All you gonna hear is the whistle. Lyrically, this the execution. My verses start revolutions. From my people seeking restitution. Since the beginning, fuck evolution. Or maybe my reality is all a dream. I put it together like I was sowing seeds. So it seems this is that audio dopamine. Go against the machine. We put you where nobody can hear you scream. And sing you to meet your Elohim. My nigga, this is savage mode. It's something that you hate to go. It started with a spark and I'ma let it explode. I was given the cheat codes. Better let me dump and reload. And go through them waves like a fucking torpedo. You dealt the cards of life. I just left them diamonds with the ace of spades. Y'all scatter like roaches when they facing raid. Or vampires when they facing blade. I'm trying to get next to terrain like I'm getting played. You still stuck as a mental slave. You still stuck in that mental cage. While I'm making easy money, pimping holes in style. It's my coming to age. Crowd warm when I'm coming on stage. And when I'm done, they gon' be cheering my name. Drake Cobb, jobs. And nah, I ain't quit my day job. I spit bars. I really rap on my day off. That's real shit. Just give you some tools you can build with. Aim high even if you still miss. Just keep going. It's a climb to the top, and I'ma keep flowing. Down Lake Shore, I'm Chicagoan.